Hello everyone and welcome to Talk Story Ola I Ka Wai. I'm McKenna Maduli and as always so incredibly grateful to be sharing this time and space with all of you. Mahalo nui for tuning in. Ola I Ka Wai, water is life. In native Hawaiian culture, wai, our precious freshwater resource, is what gives us life and is core to our existence. As many of you here in Hawaii are aware, there is a current crisis happening on Oahu's Red Hill right now regarding tainted water that has affected many families. This topic is very new to me, and as I'm learning with you that there are many layers to this situation, I've invited some of Hawaii's strongest advocates for water protection and conservation to sit with me here in the Talk Story Hale to help me understand what's happening and what we can do to help. I want to be clear from the top of the show, this hour of intention is to educate, elevate, and entertain healthy conversations that allow us all to continue living healthy lives here in Hawaii. This is a safe space and we have a beautiful hour planned for you. Before we get started, please say aloha to my one-man band dad that gave me Ola, Kata Maduli. Hi, Dad.
Hi, B-girl.
I'm so happy we're together. Say it with me. Ola I Ka Wai.
Ola I Ka Wai.
Yeah. All right. Coming up, we'll wala'au with Congressman Kai Kahele, conservationist and hula practitioner Ula Leah Woodside, Professor and attorney Kapua Sprout, attorney and engineer Wayne Tanaka, Professor Kamanamaikalani Beamer, and share a beautiful mele written by Nahoku Hanohano Award-winning Del Bisley. We begin now with a look at this current issue. Over Thanksgiving weekend 2021, complaints were made by military residents saying their water smelled of fuel and that their families and pets were becoming sick. On December 10th, state health officials confirmed that the Navy's Red Hill water system contained gasoline and diesel-range hydrocarbons as much as 350 times the state standards for safe drinking water. The suspected source of the leak is a bulk fuel storage facility at Red Hill that delivers fuel to Pearl Harbor, 2.5 miles away. The U.S. military claims the Red Hill fuel tanks are a national security asset. There has been a long-time debate that these aging steel tanks have been the source of multiple fuel leaks since they were built in the early 1940s and are a threat to Oahu's main aquifer 100 feet below. As the military continues to deal with the contamination of the Navy's water system on Oahu and families spend the holidays away from their homes, outcry from the community has been to shut down the Red Hill fuel tanks. Tonight, we ask questions. As the former deputy director of the State Commission on Water Resource Management, my first guest worked collaboratively with the commission members to set policies and make decisions in accordance with the state water code. He is now responsible for the overall strategic direction and management of the Board of Water Supply with a focus to provide safe, dependable, and affordable water now and into the future. He's become a familiar face in our homes. He's even become a hashtag. I welcome him now in the Talk Story Hale, manager and chief engineer of the Board of Water Supply, Ernie Lau. Aloha, Ernie.
Aloha, McKenna.
It is so good to have you here.
Glad to be here. This is my first time, and I look forward to our conversation.
Me too. We have just seen the headlines, and I think like many people watching right now, I am new to this subject, and if you, Ernie, could paint a picture for me of this current time and space that we're in regarding the Red Hill situation.
If everybody can pay attention, because I think we're at a critical crossroads here, probably something that our state has not experienced in many, many years. It's about our drinking water, the vai, where our water comes from. And for Oahu, it's 100% from underground aquifers that are deep underground. And these aquifers are like sponges in the lava rock. As the ua falls onto the mountains up Mauka, they soak down through the rock, they percolate through the lava rock, get filtered out, and they end up in these underground aquifers that are, it's a large freshwater body that's floating on salt water under the island.
And that has been threatened. We're watching, I'm learning, how did the 250 million gallons of jet fuel or these tanks get put there in the first place? Can you just give me a little bit of knowledge on that?
Yeah, so we have to look back almost 80 years ago when they were constructed between 1940 and 1943. The Navy had their contractor work 24/7 to build this massive underground fuel facility in secret. It only stopped work when Pearl Harbor was attacked. Other than that, they kept working throughout the night and day. They dug these huge caverns in the rock under the ridge at Red Hill above the Kaiser Hospital. That's between Mauna Loa Valley and Halawa Valley. And they worked underground, dug these huge caverns, 20 of these caverns that they built tanks in that are 250 feet tall, 100 feet in diameter, and you could fit Aloha Tower into each one of those things. and they can store up to 250 million gallons of diesel and jet fuel. And right now, today, there's probably over 180 million gallons of diesel and jet fuel stored in those tanks and in the pipes. And the bottoms of those tanks and pipes are only 100 feet above our precious groundwater aquifer.
Yeah, you know, Ernie, I've seen very troubling footage of Navy divers swimming and on that, and someone who at the Board of Water Supply is here to protect the people of Hawaii, particularly here on Oahu. How troubling is that for you, or when you see that and you know, because was this preventable?
You know, McKenna, that's why I get sad, and sometimes I just gotta pause and hold back the tears, because our precious Vai is contaminated now, and those divers are swimming in what used to be pure, fresh groundwater deep underground in the aquifer that's heavily contaminated with fuel. They're there trying to vacuum out that fuel that's in the groundwater aquifer in their own drinking water source. And you know, they knew about this for decades. And the sad part is they didn't do anything about it, and nobody stepped forward to take a position to tell them, you cannot do this anymore. You cannot pollute our groundwater aquifer. We depend on that for life. There is no substitute for pure water. It's Ola I Ka Wai. So, you know, we need to preserve it. And it's so sad, and it brings me almost to tears to really think about it, to see those Navy divers trying to work very hard in difficult conditions, deep underground, in a tunnel that's in the water, in the groundwater, and having to try to remove the fuel, which I think may be impossible. So I just ask the Navy to please wake up, listen, see what's happening to your own customers that are drinking fuel-contaminated water. Those families are suffering. You know, please wake up and do something. Just take the fuel out of those tanks and pipes and move it elsewhere.
And these families that this is affecting right now, currently, are their own military families, their own...
McKenna, it's so sad. You know, every day you can wake up at your hale, you can open up the tap in your bathroom in the morning, you can brush your teeth with clean water from the Board of Water Supply. Those Navy families and civilians and military personnel, they cannot do that. Yeah. That whole water system is under a do not drink, do not use order from the Department of Health. And it's because of the fuel that has come out of this Red Hill facility.
We are going to talk with we're going to talk to Kai Kahele in just a few minutes. And are we at a state level? Are we at a federal level? Who comes in to help us right now in this crisis that is happening? What's the next steps?
Remember, we're dealing with the largest federal agency in the federal government, in the U.S. government, the Department of Defense, and the U.S. Navy and the Defense Logistics Agency. So it's like David against Goliath here. So I think what it's going to take is we're going to have to practice the concept of Laulima together, everybody together with one voice, one direction that we want to head for at the city, local government level, to the state level, and to the federal level, our congressional delegation, and with the community, because it is a voice that has to be heard coming out of the community, the people of Oahu, to share their voice, their mana'o, and speak and say, Navy, you cannot do this anymore. You need to move the fuel. Because if we don't do that, we are going to live with a heavily contaminated aquifer and not be able to use the water. The billions of gallons that flow through that area every year, pure fresh water, will be contaminated with fuel, with diesel, with jet fuel. So I just wish the Navy would wake up.
Ernie, if I can ask you while you're here, how much money do we need and who does it come from to help? Like, I don't even know how much it costs to clean up this many gallons of fuel.
McKenna, I have no idea how much it's going to ultimately cost. My guess it's going to be in the tens of millions of dollars, maybe over $100 million to deal with this situation. For the Board of Water Supply, if we have to, and we're looking at having to drill maybe new wells in other places, or install a treatment system at Halawa Shaft, which is shut down right now. In the immediate future, that's going to be, the cost of that will be the customers of the Board of Water Supply that we serve water to for the island of Oahu. We serve 1 million people each day with 145 million gallons of pure fresh Vai, pure fresh water. And we have 170,000 meters in the system, so it'll show up on their bills in the future that they have to pay this cost. And that isn't right. No. It should go back to the person or the entity that polluted the water. Wow. And that is the federal government, the U.S. Navy, should foot the bill for all of this. So although we'll use our ratepayer funds to move quickly, we are going to ask the Navy. And Navy, I just want to let you know, we're coming. We're coming for you. You have no right to do this.
Lots of work ahead. You know, your hashtag is in Ernie We Trust, and I trust in you, Ernie.
I'm so embarrassed with that, McKenna.
Don't be embarrassed by it, because you, if I can just be completely honest with you, you are being out there on the front lines for us, and I thank you so much for your work and what you're doing for the people of Oahu, because it means a lot. And you're getting emotional because, and I'm emotional because this is vital. This is vital to the people of Oahu, to the people of Hawaii, and thank you for your work.
Thank you, McKenna.
All right, Dad. Play us to break. Aloha everyone, and welcome back to Talk Story Ola I Ka Wai. My next guest is the representative for Hawaii's 2nd Congressional District, a combat veteran, pilot, and commissioned officer in the Hawaii Air National Guard, U.S. Air Force. He is a Hilo boy with deep roots in one of Hawaii's last fishing villages, Miloli'i on Hawaii Island, and while serving in Hawaii State Senate, was a leader and champion for protecting our aina and vai. Please welcome United States Congressman Kai Kahele. Aloha, Congressman Kahele. Thank you for being here.
Aloha, McKenna. Mahalo for having me.
You have been watching this issue very closely. You've been sharing information and answers. You recently went to Red Hill. Tell me what you saw, what you learned.
You know, I've been heavily involved in this since Saturday, November 20th, when I first got the call from the Navy that there was a problem in Red Hill. Like you said, we took a tour yesterday, and I think it was one of the most comprehensive tours ever done of elected officials, of state leaders. We took Ernie Lau, Board of Water Supply, Dr. Elizabeth Char, President Lazo, University of Hawaii, geochemists, ecohydrologists, volcanologists, people that do soil remediation, to really give us a perspective on what's happening. And we asked the Navy to do it in full accountability and transparency. And so they took us to the entire Red Hill upper tunnel, the lower tunnel shaft. We talked about the incidents that happened on May 6th, on November 20th. We left there with a deeper understanding of what happened. And the most special thing was we took one of Hawaii's Native Hawaiian spiritual leaders. We took Kahu Cordell Kikoa with us. Wow. And before we went in, we all gathered in one circle, and he spoke to us. He set us in the right frame of mind. He olied, he puled, and then we went in.
Walking away from that, what was your initial call to action for you?
I think the most shocking thing that I saw, to be quite honest, was when we were looking at the video monitor of the Red Hill well, and it was covered with black fuel, and they were extracting and skimming it and sucking it off the water. I didn't expect to see that. I thought I would see the sheen, but it was like, you know, balsamic vinegar poured into a bowl of water, and how that would separate and float on the surface. That's exactly what it looked like. And I wasn't prepared to see that. And that is how gravely affected the Red Hill well is. Right. And we don't know the extent of that.
Right. And we want to be clear right now that that well, everyone, is shut down currently.
It's been shut down for, I think, about 2 weeks now.
Okay. So we want to clarify that. Right. I find it incredibly interesting as a current service member, you now holding the Navy accountable for the actions that have happened. I think what many families and Ohana want to know at home are, why are there hundreds of millions of gallons of jet fuel sitting so close to our aquifer? How do we explain that to our keiki?
You know, fuel storage facility has been there for 80 years. You know, they started building this in 1940, before the attack on Pearl Harbor, completed in 1943 under top secret level of secrecy. Nobody could even talk about it. And it remained that way until 1995, when it was finally unclassified and people could talk about it. For the most of its existence, nobody even knew the thing was there. Only in the last, you know, I guess you could say 20 to 25 years, have we begun to learn more about what's there, and to learn more about how the Navy is managing and operating the facility. Of course, they've had incidents that we know about since 1995. We don't know what happened before 1995. Right. Credit to people like Ernie Lau and the Sierra Club and others who have raised their concerns at Red Hill, and clearly what has happened in the last few weeks is something that has never been happened before, which is the contamination of one of Hawaii's and this island's most precious aquifers, designated as a federal protected groundwater sole source aquifer for the island of Oahu that provides 20% of Oahu's drinking water supply, that it is contaminated with petroleum, and that is absolutely unacceptable.
Talk about solutions. You, with this as a member of Congress, and what you can do as a part of the Armed Service Committee. At a federal level, what needs to happen? How much money do we need? Who comes in? What takes us back to zero? Because right now we have an issue, right?
I try and prioritize it in 5 ways, right? Okay. The first thing is the people. The people of Hawaii, our military service members, how they're being affected, the harmful health effects that have happened to hundreds and hundreds of people. We've all seen pictures now of people throwing up, babies with rashes, people that went to the hospital, the emergency room. How do you take care of the people first? Next thing is the environment, right? Ola I Ka Wai, you need to protect our water source, and if you cannot do that, then it should not be there. Third thing is you need to conduct a thorough investigation. People need to be held accountable. The fourth thing is the Red Hill water system and the Navy's water system. How can you remediate that so you can get water safely back to the almost 100,000 people that use the Navy's water system, and the thousands and thousands of military families that live there and consume that water daily? And the fifth thing is the long-term solution. What are we going to do in the long term? What is the Navy going to do? What is the Congress going to do to move forward? And I would say, McKenna, all options are on the table. Make no mistake, all options are on the table, which includes the complete defueling and the decommissioning of the Red Hill fuel storage facility. The Navy knows that. I think they need to take the emergency order by the Director of the Department of Health and the Governor very, very seriously, and they need to provide the congressional delegation on how they would do that and what would be the ramifications and the implications of doing that, not only to the state of Hawaii, but to our national defense. But most importantly, I will go back to the people and the environment. If you cannot protect the people and the environment, then it cannot and should not be there. As
a Kanaka, as a native Hawaiian, you have grown up on this aina, you have grown up with the Wai around you, you are a father now. From that perspective, how do you see this? How does this affect you?
As a native Hawaiian, Ola I Ka Wai, right? Water is life. I mean, Wai is a kino lao of kane. You know, we were always taught to protect the water. No let the water faucet run. No wash your car too long, no take too long showers, right? Protect the water. One of the most heavy things you could ever do is to contaminate that water. Right. Or to dry riverbeds in East Maui and to deny kalo farmers the opportunity to farm kalo, right? And in this case, contaminating the water source is hewa and must be held accountable. You know, as a native Hawaiian, that's something that is very, very important to me, and fortunately I'm in a role where, as a member of Congress and someone who has been entrusted and given the honor and privilege to represent 800,000 people in Hawaii's 2nd Congressional District, to be that voice on the House Armed Services Committee, to be able to talk to and access the highest levels of civilian and military leadership, and be that voice for the people and for our Kanaka.
There you go. Congressman Kahele, mahalo nui for your work. Thank you so much. All right, Dad, take us to break. Aloha everyone, and welcome back to Talk Story Ola I Ka Wai. As I've said in the beginning of the show, this is a safe space to open healthy conversations. I've reached out to the U.S. Navy to have them come and send a representative to talk and answer some questions here with us. I welcome now Commander Chief of Staff of Navy Region Hawaii, Captain Darren Gunther. Aloha, Captain.
Hey, thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. This is a tough time for our community, both the Navy community and our Hawaii community. So thank you for inviting me.
First and foremost, how are the military ohana? Do we have an update for them?
Our families are resilient, and you know, the community outreach to us and really integrating our Navy community, our military community into our local community has just been tremendous.
Where does it lie with them getting back into our homes?
We'd like to say that this process is going to be quick and easy, but we know to do it right, it's going to take a little longer, and because we have to have, you know, the confidence of our entire community on what we're doing, and that we're taking the steps to ensure that there's trust is rebuilt in the water. You know, trust is something that takes time to build and rebuild. The way that we're working through that is by bringing in partners like Hawaii Department of Health and the EPA to ensure that what the Navy is doing is the right thing for the water, for both our military families, for the island of Oahu.
You said a couple of things in that last sentence that I kind of gravitate to, and that's one, building trust, because right now there are many people and ohana at home who, as you know, growing up here, there's a long a long relationship between the U.S. military and Hawaii. And as we build that trust, many who don't have trust, quite frankly, in the military right now, in the Navy, how do we begin to open up healthy conversation to build trust where we are all considered? We say ho'oponopono in the Hawaiian language, but what can you offer just us in this time and space of wanting to do a ho'oponopono with this water issue?
The first thing I'd say is listening. The Navy is listening. And we're working with people to get through this. The Navy and the military does have a long history in Hawaii. And growing up as a kid from a non-military family, I joined the Navy because I thought it was cool. I looked up to some people that I had met. A few years later, here I am. It's been exciting for me to be able to represent the Navy back to my home state and my local community. There are difficult issues out there, and trust is built over the long term, and trust is built through listening in part, and I think that's where we're at right now.
I want to ask some questions now and give you the opportunity to respond. We have Ernie Lau and you, who's been on the Board of Water Supply, saying that this is a situation of David and Goliath. This is we were dealing with the largest federal agency, right, the Department of Defense, and we count on you as you sit here right now in the Talk Story Hale suited up to defend us, to protect us, right? And if you do have a response to that, and simply if you could just tell me, do you know when the last time these tanks were inspected?
I don't have that information right in front of me, but I'll tell you that there's a hard look and a hard conversation going on right now between the federal level and the state level on the future of Red Hill. And my focus has been on the water and our families. I think the Navy understands the gravity of the issue that we have in front of us.
Before we started, you had shared with me a little of exactly the difference between the leak and where this had come from. Can you reiterate that for me?
We have a command investigation that the Pacific Fleet Commander has called to look at every piece of this, as well as a third-party sort of external look. And we believe that there was a release of fuel on November the 20th from a pipeline area, which isn't necessarily right in the area where the big tanks are, but it's a pipe that's not necessarily associated with any of the big tanks, but it was a release of fuel that we believe occurred there and somehow made it into our Red Hill drinking water well, which caused the contamination that we saw in our community.
There was a spill that happened in May of 2021. I've currently read that all but 40 gallons of jet fuel was recovered out of the 1,600 gallons of jet fuel that spilled in May 2021. Is this the jet fuel that possibly could have leaked in November that is affecting 93,000 people right now?
We're going to find that out, and that's why there's an external investigation and also a Pacific Fleet Commander investigation to answer that question exactly.
I want to give you an opportunity to really speak to the people of Hawaii right now. This is important. We have 7 other strong, as you are here to just come and take this step, and I want to thank you and mahalo you for this, and I hope it opens up healthy conversations of a roundtable or things that we can get to just to talk more about. What do you, a Honolulu boy, graduate from Punahou, who represents the U.S. Navy, what do you want the people of Hawaii to know as we go into 2022?
Thank you. The community support and outpouring for our families, for our military community, and it's not just an outpouring of support, but it's a pulling in. Really, our local community has pulled in this military community, almost made it one of its own, and that's something that I think is so important going forward. And I always tell our military families when they come in, I say, hey, the most important thing about coming to Hawaii and learning and understanding Hawaii is to get to know our neighbors, our families, our friends outside who are kama'aina. Because we know that Hawaii is so special because of its people, right? That's the ohana, that's the aloha. So I'm just so thankful for our local community pulling in our Navy and military community and trying to make it all one.
I appreciate and I admire that too. I would be mistaken to not say that this community that you're speaking to is somewhat outraged right now in a way. And this is water, not war. This is rights. This is an aquifer that we are talking about, as I've learned in the last hour, along with the people of Hawaii. This is important. Some of these tanks, I believe 8 of them haven't been inspected in 20 years. That These are heavy. Do you know how much these tanks weigh? I don't know.
I don't.
What they're hearing, or what we're hearing, is the severity of this issue, that there are these tanks that are sitting 100 feet above our most precious Oahu aquifer. And I think I just want one more time to just understand that you are on this issue, that you are talking about all these levels from state to federal. Is that correct?
Yeah, the Navy is taking this issue incredibly seriously, and these conversations are happening, I think, at the highest levels, the federal government, Navy, DOD, with the state.
Yeah.
All eyes are on this, I can assure you.
At this time and space that we're at, going into 2022, are you going to shut down these Red Hill tanks permanently?
Thank you for the question. It's that question really is well above us, and I know that people are talking. They're having those conversations at the federal level, Department of Defense level, and the big Navy level, along with our state leadership over the future of Red Hill. You know, my focus and our focus here in our team has been on clean water and ensuring that our residents are safe.
Captain Gunther, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you taking the time, and it was incredibly important to have a U.S. Navy member be a part of Ola I Ka Wai.
Hey, thank you.
All right, Dad, play us to break. Aloha everyone, and welcome back to Talk Story Ola I Ka Wai. As the daughter of a wildlife biologist and a native Hawaiian cultural practitioner, my next guest grew up in a family dedicated to protecting the environment. She is the Hawaii Executive Director of the Nature Conservancy, who works with local communities, businesses, and government agencies to protect Hawaii's natural lands and waters. They also explore significant challenges we face today, including climate change, food, and water security. Here she is now with me, Ulalia Woodside. Aloha, Ulalia.
Aloha, McKenna. So good to see you.
I am so happy to have you here. I really wanted to ask you, from your upbringing, your experiences, and your lifelong advocacy protecting our aina. Tell me about what you see right now happening.
What I see right now happening is the past and the future coming together right where we are right now, our community activated. The lessons of those that came before us, our parents and our grandparents, brought to life by their children and their grandchildren today. We know about our values of our place, passed down generation after generation, that we have a responsibility to care for these lands, to aloha aina, to have deep respect, deep emotional connection to our aina, that we then practice that and demonstrate that in malama aina, that we have this reciprocal kinship and stewardship of place, recognizing that we need each other to thrive. And because of that, we've got this, clean air, we've got fresh water to drink, fish and reef, streams with o'opu and opai. We have a responsibility, we have that kuleana, to ensure that those next generations can experience what we have as well.
I was recently at ceremony. It was my first ceremony, and I was brought to tears because of the intention. I hadn't been to a construction of a koa before, and I was just in awe of every pohaku that was brought all the way from all over. Can you explain to me that ceremony?
Yeah, it was one of those activations in our community that comes together, and you get that call and you show up. And mahalo to the folks at Ka'ohe Wai. We know ko'a are places that aggregate and they draw in and they build energy, abundance, health, ola, life. That's what ko'a do, whether it's for fish or for birds. And in this case, as Ka'ohe Wai shares with us, it's around those life-giving elements of water. And so that ceremony that day brought forward those intentions, that affirmation, that this is a thing that we want to make sure we take care of. The life-giving waters of our land. People came and they brought their intentions, sometimes in just a voice, aheleo vale no, and how important is a voice. We always hear about, I'm as good as my word, right? So we said all of these chants, those were our words, our intention, our commitment to this place and to these waters. So we shared a number of chants for all these life-giving elements in Hawaii, from kane, especially lono, kanaloa, ku, all different ways in which we have life. And then we celebrated places of oahu, like Ka'ala and Pu'uloa, to remind ourselves and to reaffirm in that reciprocity that we're in this together. We're going to live and have life in these islands only if these islands are able to live and have life, and we depend on each other for that.
And you mentioned something there in the Oli. Who is Kane?
Kane is one of the paramount life-giving elements, Akua, deity of Hawaii. We feel and we find Kane in the light and the warmth and the heat of the sun. We know we cannot have life without that, and that's Kane Ho'alani. In this instance, in order to live anywhere, and especially on this isolated island, we need water. And Kane Kawaiola is Kane as we see in that potable water that gives us life. One of the chants that was dedicated that day and shared captures the wisdom of these islands and our people is He Mele no Kane. It starts with He Ui, He Ni No, E Ui Akua No Ya Oi, Aya Ihea Kawaya Kane. And what that means is I have a query, I have a question. Where are the waters of Kane? And it goes through all the different places you find it, from the tops of the mountains. And that last verse, it says, Aya Ilalo, Ika Honua, Ika Vaihu, Ika Wai Kaua Kane, Ame Kanaloa, He Wai Mapuna, He Wai Inu, He Wai Mana, He Wai Ola. And what that means is these life-giving waters are found in the ground, and they bubble up and they hoo and they create these pools. And it specifically says, He Wai Inu, it's a water to drink. He Wai Mana, it's a water that gives us strength. He Wai Ola, it's a water that gives us life. He Ola no, yeah? That's how it ends. That's what we affirm ourselves. It's the science and wisdom of our ancestors. It's what we've inherited. We inherited Waiola, and we want to ensure that we can, for those future generations, have Waiola.
That's right. Call to action. You're speaking to the people of our Lahui right there. What is that?
Our call to action is most of the water that we drink in Hawaii is captured by our native forests in the misty rains. They trickle down into our aquifer. We've heard maybe in some commercials it takes 25 years for a drop of water to hit the forest for us to be able to turn on the tap and get it. There's been recent studies at Kohala Mountain and Hualalai Mountain and here on Oahu that tells us that some of that water might be 1,000 years old. What does that mean for us if we have pollutants in our water here today? How many generations might be impacted by the fact that today that water or that pollutant has gone in there into that water? Our call to action is to maka'ala, be mindful. If you love Hawaii, if you support this place, if you want to support those life-giving elements, let's do what we can to take care of our places that give us water and that water that's already been collected from generations before to make sure we can have health and life here.
Forever, ever. Mahalo nui,
Mahalo,
Unalia, for your
anui loa,
work.
McKenna.
Thank you so much,
This has been
Dad.
fantabulous.
Thank you, Dad. You can take us to break. Aloha everyone and welcome back to Talk Story Ola I Ka Wai. My next guest has spent most of his life protecting Hawaii's diverse environment and our unique culture that grows along with it. After serving for a decade in the public policy program at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, this attorney and engineer is the new director for the Sierra Club of Hawaii. I welcome him now in the Talk Story Hale, Mr. Wayne Tanaka. Aloha, Wayne.
Aloha, McKenna.
Thank you for being here. You know, we talked to Kai Kahele a little earlier about the federal level and what can be done. I want to talk to you a little bit legally what at the state level can be done.
Yeah, absolutely. Federal law actually allows the states and even the counties to regulate underground storage tanks. However, these tanks have never been regulated under state law. They've never been permitted. And so what the Sierra Club has been working towards in the legal arena over the last 4 years has been to ensure that our state laws regarding underground storage tanks apply to the Red Hill facility.
Break it down in layman's terms of where we're at right now as far as a safety issue.
Very concerning. It's terrible that so many folks do not have water right now. What we're seeing could really be a harbinger for things to come for so many more people. Mm-hmm. These tanks are very, very old. They're actively corroding. We actually don't know how badly they've been corroded. And a number of these tanks, in fact, 8 of them that currently have millions of gallons of fill in them right now, have not been inspected in over 20 years.
Wayne, you said to me the other day, anyone who cares about anything should care about this. And I'm saying this, that I just learned about this a few weeks ago. You have known about this for years. What is your advice to us or your tips on what we can do to help?
One thing that people can do to get more information and up-to-date information about what is going on is they can come to our website, sierraclubhawaii.org/redhill. There'll be a number of action steps that folks can take from Keiki to Kupuna. We are asking folks, write a letter to the Pentagon, to the White House, President Joe Biden. He has connections to Hawaii as well as people around him. And so, just let them know that, this is something that's always been like an incredibly important source of life for our island, and that we really need to do everything that we can to keep it safe. The original capacity of this facility was 250 million gallons. Right now, there's 2 tanks that have been decommissioned and 3 or 4 that are undergoing inspection, so they're empty. Nonetheless, there is still well over 100 million gallons of fuel is 100 feet above our EPA Region 9 sole source aquifer. Essentially, this is the water that provides for up to 50% of the community's needs, the community in this case being everyone from Halava to Mauna Lua.
We're seeing pictures and photos of kids covered in bumps, and we're seeing women throw up over toilets, and the images are just so graphic. There's a heightened sense of anxiety that is happening here in Honolulu right now, a very urban place. I just want to provide some sort of solace to people of the action that you are taking to protect us and the rest of that, for that to spread.
We are firing on all cylinders. My staff and I have been working day and night to try to ensure that as many people know how important of an issue this is. We are reaching out to every community group that may be impacted that is willing to listen to us, which is essentially anyone who cares about life on this island.
Yeah. You are affectionately called by many in this community Tanaka Maoli. And I want to know, where does your love for Native Hawaiian and environmental issues stem from for you? Was it small kid time?
Born and raised here at Oahu, my folks, we're a blue-collar family, so we didn't really have a lot of resources to go and spend on things, but that doesn't mean we weren't rich in a lot of ways. I grew up going to the beach, going holo holo at the pier, exploring the streams. I think that really informed my passion and my connection to this place.
If there's a message that you and the Sierra Club want the people of Hawaii, particularly us here in Oahu, what's that? What do you want us to know?
Maybe if folks can think about someone they love, a place they love, think about what you would do to protect that person, that place, from harm. And really, that's what we need folks to do now, because as we've discussed, this issue impacts every aspect of life as we know it today. And this resource, this aquifer, has provided for life on this island for millennia. And we simply need to make sure that it stays safe and we don't see it compromised in our generation.
I know you've been working hard on this issue. Please keep in touch with me here on Talk Story, and I really appreciate your time, Wayne.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Tanaka Maoli. All right, Dad, you can play Tanaka Maoli to break. Aloha everyone, and welcome back to Talk Story Ola I Ka Wai. My next guest is the Dana Naone Hall Chair and full professor with a dual appointment at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. He's also served 2 full terms as a commissioner on Hawaii's Commission for Water Resource Management. He holds an incredible wealth of knowledge and passion on Hawaii's rich history, and I'm incredibly happy to have him here with me. Kamanamaikalani Beamer.
Aloha nui, mahalo for having me.
It is my understanding that you have known about this issue for some years now. As a professor, as a former water commissioner, and as a father, how does this all connect for you?
It starts with aloha. It starts with aloha for our place, our way, and our people. The thing about water is it's the most important, most precious resource we have. If you think about it, we all come into this world and we drink the water that fell on the aina before we ever came. And there will come a time that the water that falls on our heads, we no longer consume, because that's for the next generation. No one creates water, but we have this deep kuleana, a commitment to preserve water. So the babies, the future generations that come into our aina have precious clean water to drink. And that's really my main motivation. I've been involved in this issue since 2014, as you said, as a water commissioner. Asked questions of the Navy, was assured there would be safe drinking water, that there would never be a crisis like this. And yet here we are. I'm here to speak, to tell the truth, because it's important for all of us to malama our way.
How do we do that right now in this space that we're in? It's the $1 million question.
Biggest thing to do right now is to be informed about the facts of what's happening. Unfortunately, our water is not safe here on Oahu with these 80-year-old single-line tanks that can hold about 250 million gallons of jet fuel, 100 feet over Halava's aquifer. This is a serious situation for all of us, and now we do know that some of the wells have been tainted and people are affected. It's uncomfortable conversations. We all got to push a little bit We have to get informed and speak out and close these tanks down.
And when you say close these tanks down, which has become this thing, right? Shut down Red Hill, which they currently are shut down. What happens? Where does that fuel go?
The important thing is to focus on the why, because we can store fuel in other places, but there's no alternative to Ola I Ka Wai, fresh water. Yeah, there is no alternative for us. We can't create another aquifer. So what we have to do is, these tanks were never built to last this long, and they have been leaky over the years. When I was there in 2014 for the first leak, 27,000 gallons, it was a crisis and all hands got on deck. But unfortunately, we didn't solve the problem. In my personal opinion, yeah, we have to shut down those tanks and take care of the aquifer. It's the most important issue for the future of Oahu's livelihood and economy.
How does this affect our future economy? How does it affect tourism, possibly?
It's a very big concern. The Halava Aquifer provides about 20% of the drinking water for Oahu, so it's a very important source of wai, and that wai is distributed all around Oahu. Now that that's shut down, Ernie Lau and the Commission on Water Resource Management are going to have to figure, the best way to provide water for Oahu. People may not want to come here if our water is tainted. People may not want to come here if we don't have the pristine beauty of our islands that are associated really with our fresh water. It could have tremendous impacts to our economy, not trying to cause panic, but awareness. This is something we all have to get involved in to solve for our islands.
I think we're hearing this throughout is just to be maka'ala.
Exactly, be maka'ala. There are various groups, Ka'ohe Wai, the water protectors, you can follow. Everybody's into social media and Instagram, and you can learn more about what's going on. I would say follow the Board of Water, Ernie Lau, listen to his updates. We have to treat our wai as our most precious resource, and like I said, it's for future generations. The water that we got into this world, we didn't create. None of us did. Not easy moments for all of us. It's a troubling situation, but if we band together, we can.
It's a kako thing.
It's a kako thing.
Mahalo nui for your time, Komana. All right, Dad, take us to break. Welcome back to Talk Story Ola I Ka Wai. My next guest is the director of the Kahuliao Center for Excellence in Native Hawaiian Law at the William S. Richardson School of Law at UH Manoa. Over the course of her career, she has been a leader and advocate for the protection and preservation of Hawaii's water resources. She is also the vice chair of the Board of Water Supply. Another Manawa Hine joins me now from the beautiful island of Kauai, Kapua Sproat. Aloha, Kapua.
Aloha mai, McKenna. Mahalo for having me with you and allowing me to be here remotely.
In the last couple of days, Kapua, you have been described to me as the fiercest water protector of our islands. And I want to know, I know you've been all over and quietly fighting for rights. I want to get your take right now. Where are we at with this situation?
I have been working on water issues in our Pai'aina for more than 25 years now in lots of different capacities. As an attorney litigating these issues, as a professor at the law school teaching classes and doing outreach and leading legal clinics who are doing work in the community. I work as a public servant volunteering for the Board of Water Supply. And, for so many of our kahuvai and kia'i, 20 years is no time at all. These issues are legacies that people pass on to their kids. But in this time, I have never seen a situation like this one, a public health crisis of this magnitude, with so many people, even their pets, sick or worse. And while my heart goes out to all of the ohana who have been harmed and who have been impacted by this, I wish that we could say that we knew the extent of it or when it would be resolved. Because the truth of the matter is that the situation at Kapukaki, the original name for Red Hill, is still unfolding. More information is being made available all the time. We don't have any information or specifics on the plume, the fuel that's been spilled, right? And is now in our drinking water supply, where or how it's moving. And so the bottom line is, we're some people would call this a catastrophic event, and I don't think that's being dramatic.
I'm not trying to cause panic here on the show, but that's the feeling and the sense of urgency, if I will. We wanted to open up conversation. We've also invited the Navy and the military to be a part of this conversation with us, and you all are welcome anytime to come and sit here in the Talk Story Hale with us and to open that conversation so we can ask questions, and you're welcome here anytime. Kopua, I want to take it back because you know so much about our culture, and if you could explain to me the term vai vai, because it holds a lot of weight in our Hawaiian culture. Can you take me to the word and the meaning and the kauna of vai vai?
Absolutely. You know, for us as Kanaka, Ola I Ka Wai, water is the source of all life, right? Our word for fresh water is vai. That term repeated twice, vai vai, can mean value, but it also connotes wealth. And at the same time, kanawai is the law. And to me, it's no coincidence that as people that live on tiny islands in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, both wealth and the law were and continue to be defined by access to our freshwater resources. So for us, freshwater was a physical embodiment of Akuakane, right? One of the four principal gods of the Maoli pantheon. But given the vital role that freshwater played as the very lifeblood of our communities, especially before the arrival of Europeans, right? Water for drinking, water for kalo cultivation, to feed the muliwai so we can have productive estuaries and fisheries. Kanawai, or the law, literally developed around the management and use of our freshwater resources. So because of that, because of this critical role that it played, water was and has always been managed as a public trust for present and future generations. So it's not something that anyone can own. It's not a commodity. It's something that's managed by the sovereign for present and future generations. And what I would also say is because of the way things were done here in Hawaii, because this was historically, you know, part of our earliest laws, the 1839 Kanawai, the Declaration of Rights, the 1840 Constitution, but it's also part of our laws today. In Hawaii, we have incredibly strong constitutional public trust provisions, which have been developed largely in connection with the use and allocation of our freshwater resources. And so what's really cool about Hawaii is that our public trust comes from Native Hawaiian custom and tradition, things like vai and vai vai. So not from Roman law, but from our own values. And this indigenous approach really informs the interpretation and what I would also call the kuleana, right? Yeah. That responsibility and privilege, that cultural duty associated with resource protection.
Well, that is so powerful. I know you're a mother and you are an educator. For what you do in the classroom, and we as a Lahui and as a community, and this is, I want to be clear, this is not a Native Hawaiian issue. This affects every single person. And if you want to touch on that, Kopua, go right ahead.
Water is our connecting force, right? Vai, that fresh water, that connection that brings us together, not just the people in this area from Maunalua to Moanalua, not even just the people on Oahu, but really if we look at things like the hydrologic cycle, all of us throughout this pai'aina are connected through our freshwater resources. And that's why this issue is so vitally important, not just for people on Oahu, not just for Native Hawaiians, but for all of us who call Hawaii home. I mean, this is really about our collective water future as people who want to persist and remain in this pai'aina. And I think we also need to link this and put this in context of the military history in Hawaii, right? From the role that they've played in the illegal overthrow of the Hawaiian Kingdom to what's currently going on in the Pearl Harbor Aquifer, and with this poisoning of our drinking water supply, we need to ho'oponopono, we need to maka'ala and work together if we want to remain in this place on Maoloa.
Maoloa. Kopua, you are an educator, and we just have a few seconds left in this special talk story, Ola I Ka Wai, and I can't think of a perfect person to wrap up this call to action as we enter 2022. Talk to our Lahui right now on just where we're at, what we can do to help.
Lahui, we need you now more than ever, and everybody has been showing up. You know, this is an issue that I think I and so many other people have been working on for many years, for at least 5 years, some people 8 years, some people way more than that. And it's so inspiring and heartening to see so many people engaged, appearing before the city council to testify, showing up, you know, holding ceremony before Joint Base Pearl Harbor. And so for us, it's really critical that we continue to come together. We need honesty and transparency. We need the regulators at DOH to do their job, to hold the Navy's feet to the fire. But we also need the Navy to take responsibility for their actions and to ho'oponopono. It's time for them to make things right. And that's hard because of our history, But I also have hope that this is a time, right, in this time of hulihia, that we can actually move forward. And it's a time for restorative justice, for recognizing and addressing the harms and the suffering, acknowledging the wrongdoing, and then making things right.
Kopua, I echo your sentiment when you say you have hope, and we have, the hulihia is happening, and thank you so much for your work in our community. We plan to talk about this issue a lot more on Talk Story in the new year. Will you come back and talk with us?
Absolutely. In fact, I'd like to invite you to come to Kalihiwai to come and talk story with me over here.
Oh, okay. I'm on my way. Thank you so much. Dad, take us to break, and then we're going Kalihiwai, okay? Welcome back to Talk Story, Ola I Ka Wai. As we close out this important time we've spent together, I've invited Del Beasley, multiple Nahoku Hanohano award-winning musician and one true Kanaka, to join us for a mele to close the show. Uncle Del, can you tell us a little bit about this mele Sweetwater you wrote years ago?
Sure, honey. I wrote this song because, as far back as we go, we know Ola I Ka Wai, water is life. But this was written during the time of the Waiahole Valley, their struggle with water. But the message in the song is pertinent no matter what the situation is. You need to take care of that resource. If not, it's going to be gone. And then what?
Right.
Take care, malama.
Malama I Ka Wai.
Yes.
Thank you, Uncle.
Sweet water flow through an endless sea of green, dancing through the valley, flowing from the mountain to the sea. Sweet water flowing, giving life to everything she touches, reaching out her hand, touching all she can from hill to ocean. But that flow keeps slowing down. Green is now shaded brown. Time for all to give a damn. Well, our rain needs a hand. Mother, mother, water, brother, right now. Sweet water flowing, telling secrets to the wind and sky. She's pouring out her sorrow, knowing not how long she can survive. Sweet water flow, peaceful sound that soothes my soul. Your voice is getting weaker, and I can't hear the rhythm of your flow. Flow, the flow keeps slowing down. Green is now shade of brown. Time for all to give a damn, or our rain needs a hand. Mother, mother, water, brother, take care of it for each other right now.
Mahalo nui to all of my guests. I hope this time together has inspired you to educate yourselves and engage in healthy conversation as we continue to learn together. The call to action, Lahui, right now is to stay maka'ala, be alert. I am with you. We're in this together. Let's make it a great new year. Elevate one another. It truly is a kako thing. From Del Beasley, Kata Maduli, and me, McKenna Maduli, we will see you next time on Talk Story. Malama pono.
Mother, mother, water, brother, right now. Moani
Moani ke ala o ka laua e, ka poli kaulana o makana. Kilohi I ka nani, o mai ole ole. Kamanamaikalani po. Moani ke ala o ka laua e, ka poli kaulana o